Michael Levy, our guest, he's a business and financial analyst, started out in the coin business with his father in, gosh, the 60s.
I'm really old.
You're as old as I am.
Well, know what?
I'm really old too.
I was talking to somebody the other day about the gold business, which I've been in for so many years, and did the math. I have been in the gold bullion business for 43 years.
Really?
43. Started in 1968. So, I mean, this is really, you know, this is, I saw the run up in 1980 when gold went to $850 an ounce. We were in the gold business. We were buying and selling gold. Now we've seen the run up from 2002 to 2011. Now, the reason I say this, in 1978, 79, 80, it was inflation driven. Remember the 14 and 16% inflation, interest rates up around 20%. This is being driven by fear. This is being driven by people not trusting the paper assets, the currencies, and they are going elsewhere for this safety. So completely different reasons, even though run up both times.
Well, where does somebody like Standard & Poor's fit in this? Do they come in and weigh in and make announcements, or S&P or whatever they call it?
You know, those are the rating services. Okay,
Right.
Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, Dominion Bond Rating Service here in Canada. What they do is they rate companies and countries' debt. They rate their stability. All right. Now, during the subprime mess in the United States, they were rating that bad mortgage paper as AAA. That's why everybody was buying it. Banks in Europe were buying it. Huge investors were buying it. You and I were buying it in our mutual funds because the rating services were on the payroll of the big major banks and corporations that were issuing. When I say on the payroll, they were being paid by them on a different page, so they felt obligated that they would take their word rate at AAA. Now, that's all been cleaned up. Now the rating services are taking a look at Greece and saying their debt is junk status. If you are an investment house, if you are a country that invests sovereign debt, you cannot invest in Greece. It's not investment grade. As a matter of fact, if Greece wanted to finance two-year bonds, we put them out here in Canada, interest rates just under 2%. In Greece, if their two-year bonds are around 39% interest. Nobody wants them. They're called junk. Okay, so that's the huge problem. So that's where Germany, France, and the European Union stepped in, and they're loaning Greece money at a much reduced rate to even what they would have to normally pay in order to bring them out of this morass that is threatening the structure of the European Union, threatening the structure of the euro, threatening countries like Spain, Italy, huge, much better, Portugal, but Italy and Spain, particularly Italy, is a huge economy, one of the biggest in Europe. So when you threaten Italy, that could bring the whole euro down.
Right, but how did Greece get there?
Greece got there by the sense of entitlement that was given by politicians over the years. Work for the government, get huge money, and retire at 52. I mean,
you know what's interesting in all of this? Nobody seems to go to the jail. The odd Bernie Madoff, but if you look at the politicians and the greed and the corruption, and they all have had to be in the same bed.
Well, you know, that's why there's this outcry in the U.S. about Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and name your banks, and none of the executives there seem to be Teflon people, where you get a Bernie Madoff, that's fine, he's an individual, we can do whatever we want, we can put him in jail for 150 years, but we're not holding Goldman Sachs responsible, we're not holding J.P. Morgan Chase. But now, mark my words here, it's gone out of federal hands into the hands of the individual state district attorneys, and they are looking at this same thing. The states are not, the individual states are not afraid of the big financial houses like the United States government is. So we could see a little bit of movement there of people who should be held accountable being held accountable, and those that have put us, meaning you and I, into a precarious state while they took in their hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe, just maybe, they might be held personally accountable in the months and years to come.
Well, some of the founding fathers are probably rolling over, no question. But if America's creditors, like China, don't give the USA some room, if they don't solve this debt ceiling thing, what happens?
Well, the U.S. they won't default. because they're too big of an economy and they will come to an accommodation one way or another. But they could delay. Now, delay and default. If I owe you $5 and I say, Fanny, I owe it to you for next Tuesday, but I can't pay you maybe for a week or two, you say, Michael, you're a good credit risk. I know you're going to pay me, but because you're late, I'm going to charge you more interest. I'm going to raise the interest up. All right, so that's what's going to happen in the U.S.
Okay.
But once they raise the interest rates, mortgage rates get more expensive, consumer loans get more expensive, unemployment goes up, consumer confidence goes. So those are the ramifications of a delay in the U.S. paying their debt.
Is there a way that they can raise that debt rate, the debt ceiling, without going through Congress?
They're talking about it. There's no way that I see, but they're talking about the president being able to do a temporary on his own. And then if Congress wants to repeal what he does, it would take 2/3 of Congress to vote against it. That wouldn't happen. But the president doesn't want to go short term because there's an election in 2012. He wants any debt deal, any raising of the ceiling, to go beyond November 2012. The Republicans are saying, we'll go short term, not long term.
Sure. I heard Jim Flaherty, our finance minister, talking about this a week ago, and he's pointed out that not only is the U.S. the world's largest economy by far, it also dominates the global monetary system. So we as Canadians have to try and help. How can we do that?
Everything that we do in this world to do with commodities and currencies has to do with the U.S. dollar. Every commodity which trades on every exchange trades in U.S. dollars, whether it's coffee, cocoa, gold, copper, oil, energy products, they all trade in U.S. dollars. That's the medium which they trade against. Now you go to your own country and then you've got to convert it into your currency.
Right.
Now, every currency in the U.S. or every currency in the world trades against the U.S. dollar. So when I tell you the Canadian dollar is $1.06, I'm saying it's $1.06 against the U.S. dollar. If I tell you the pound is $1.50, it's $1.50 against the U.S. dollar. The euro, $1.42 against the U.S. dollar. So they are the world's reserve currency. Everything depends on the U.S. dollar. When part of the Canadian dollar going from 62 cents up to $1.06 in the last 9 years was the demise of the U.S. dollar. Same with the euro, same with the pound. A lot of it's what goes on here in Canada, but most of it is the U.S. dollar coming down. That's why gold's up. The U.S. dollar came down. That's why oil went up. U.S. dollar came down. Then we have to convert it into our own currency to see what it's really worth to us.
We might just have to go to the beach and not think about it.
Well, if we could get some weather, I think that'd be a heck of an idea.
It's like just too much, isn't it? In one of your children on the radio, did I hear a Levy, a young Levy?
Yeah, you did, on CKNW doing the morning business. Robert.
Really?
Yeah, he's 22 and he's got his Bachelor of Science and Honors Economics, going on to Carleton for a Master's, and then coming back and working with Dad, and maybe going to do a little radio, but in the gold business, but going to do a little radio, and did a little television last night. So
wow, so it continues.
Oh, it continues.
Oh, nice to see you.
Hey, thanks, Fanny.
Thank you. Michael Levy, financial and business analyst.